You are listening to Unleash Your Creativity with Omashola, where creativity is showcased in its many dimensions. A time to celebrate, empower, inspire, and equip creatives with thought-provoking interviews and up-to-date information.
Welcome once again to my show, Unleash Your Creativity with Omashola. This is the show where we celebrate creativity in its many dimensions through your hobbies, your crafts, your passions, your skills, innovation, imagination, and the list goes on. Every week I have an amazing guest on the show. And I know every week I have new people joining me. This show is about showcasing creativity, breathing creativity, living creativity, embracing creativity, enjoying creativity. And my favorite one is celebrating creativity. And I'm here to make sure that all of that happens, plus much more. It is the platform where creatives have the opportunity to glean off each other, share the past, the present, the future, the ongoing. And if you haven't been following me, this is the time to do just that. So you can engage with me at the place of excellence. Today, I'm going to be bringing creativity in a different way, in a different form. And it's going to be coming through language, through words, through your imagination. And it's the spoken word. Now, don't panic. I'm not going to be doing the spoken word. I have my guest who is well equipped and he will be doing just that. He is David Abiono, popularly known as Davecreates. And he's a spoken word artist, among other creative things. Davecreates has released a number of songs of his own, and he will be talking about this much later in the show. He has his own clothing line, which makes him a business person, an entrepreneur, and has also connected with various people. May I name drop BBC One Extra, Premier Gospel, and Spotify and New Music Friday UK. And we're going to be hearing all about that. Not only has he done that, he has collaborated with the likes of Grammy-nominated Alice Walls. He shared the stage with top talented US rapper SO and MOBO award winner Triple O. I am so excited to hear what he has to say and what he has to share. Lots to unpack and questions to ask. I'm going to do something different today. I am going to share with you something that will give you a taster into spoken word, because before now, I had no clue. So sit back and listen.
At the heart of the issue is always a heart issue. Said it's always a heart issue. Every heart's been hit deep by life's missiles. Blood leaks, but you can't wipe it with white tissues. Naked wound. We feel vulnerable like babies do when they come out naked from the womb. Like Adam when he first ate the fruit, dawn of the eve of a new age. Cause things got messed up in more than two ways. Now life is a battle just to keep my mind safe, or try and sleep well at night despite the migraines. For a time I tried to do things my way, but then God said come, and I will show you the right way. I realized I was trying to protect my wound, and in doing so made life more uncomfortable. But confronting the fear and sin I'm in is a start on the path towards better things. So no matter what life may bring, I know there's hope in every season. And now I see that by trusting Jesus Christ, I can be free. Be free.
Moving swiftly on, I think you've got a taste of what spoken word is all about. Now, I always have a word, and today's word is imagination. And that's going to be forming part of my conversation. As research tells me, imagination refers to the faculty or ability of the mind to create, form, or manipulate mental images, ideas, concepts, or scenarios that are not directly perceived through the senses or currently present in reality. Now, I like this bit. It says it involves the power of visualization and generates thoughts and ideas that go beyond immediate sensory experiences. Imagination remains important throughout life, and it enables individuals to innovate, adapt, and be stimulated. It's where we find creative solutions to problems. This tells me everyone has the ability to imagine. We just do it differently. Now, this is where I introduce my guest. Welcome, David, to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction as well. Very, very.
I call you King David.
Yeah.
And, you know, he is also a twin. And I'm trying to sharpen my rhythm, you know, as I, you know, so I went King David and he's also a twin. You might not get it, but there's something there. You know,
there's something there for real.
I'm also an adopted auntie of his. So this is going to be very interesting. How the dynamics of the blend of professionalism, culture, and family. But you know what? We're just going to have fun. And because I'm family, there are some things that I know that he hadn't put on his bio. But don't worry, don't panic. Nothing that's going to make you uncomfortable. My first question really is for listeners to know a bit more about you outside being the musician. You are a twin and your twin is also your manager. My question to you is, who is the older and what is life like as a twin? Any interesting stories you want to share with us? And what is the dynamics of your twin being your manager? Loaded, but you know, just feel free to answer whichever one.
Well, firstly, thank you for having me on the show. It's a great privilege. And yeah, the introduction was gassing me up.
Yay!
Reminded me of all the accolades. So thank you very much. I'm Davecreates, creative. What you said about being a twin, that's always my interesting fact. People don't really know because I'm not an identical twin. It's one of those ones where you wouldn't know if you saw me and my sister together. I feel like we're both creative in our own ways, in quite similar ways, to be honest. We both started in church doing different musical things. So for her, my younger sister, it was singing. For myself, my brother, it was instruments. So she's older than me. I do see her as my older sister at the same time. But yeah, I think we have a great relationship in general, which just helps when it comes to what we do in terms of art and business and our entrepreneurial stuff and music stuff. We have a very similar approach to how we think about, I guess, art, even art as Christians as well, and how we want to approach things from a business standpoint. With that in mind, it's made things a lot more smoother when it comes to working together. We still are able to balance just being friends and still being, I guess, professional colleagues in that sense. Yeah, I think it's just making time for each other as I do all my siblings, and just living life together. And then the art and everything else flows from that, really.
You know, without being the catalyst of trouble or trying to find something. So it's always smooth sailing. Tell me, are there any differences that you go, okay, no, you know, as not even as twins, as people that now work together, are there times where you have different opinions or you think differently? And how do you resolve that? That's quite interesting to find out.
Yeah, good question. I would say there are some instances, nothing crazy, maybe in terms of how you want to like spend budget when it comes to music or on our clothing line that we've got running, how we want to spend stuff towards that. Maybe I have a certain idea of what might work, and she has a certain idea of what might work. And we've had moments where we've maybe disagreed on how we want to execute certain things, but it normally resolves with either one of us just explaining why we want to do certain things. So if it's me wanting to spend a certain amount towards a project musically, and Rebecca might be like, I don't know if that's a wise idea. And sometimes I have to be like, okay, you're right. Let's think about how we can reapproach this. Other times I've been like, no, I think this can work. This is going to help us grow in this area. She's been like, okay, I understand. But I think for me, what I've learned is just the importance of having that communication. And even if we don't agree straight away, I always want to be as like transparent as possible. And even on her side, just for us to kind of be on the same page with things. So yeah, it definitely helps that we have a strong relationship anyway, but it doesn't mean that we don't agree on everything. So we have to work through those things as well. Thankfully, it's not too often.
I'm glad. For me, it's nice to know that you're normal, because that's what happens in the normal life. So just looking at that from the standpoint of being twins and, you know, knowing that she is the older one, you maybe mom would be able to answer that question by how many minutes, by how many seconds. seconds, but we'll leave the fact that she's the older one. I will stop that. So we do a shout out to Rebecca. You've kind of touched on it a little bit, but I wanted to ask the love for music. You did say church, but how and when did you realize that this is something that I want to take as a profession? And when I say profession, I mean the fact that you're releasing albums and you're working with other artists. How was that journey like for you?
It's a very interesting journey because, as I mentioned, born and raised in church and coming from a Pentecostal background, music plays a huge part in our Christian experience. So my earliest memories have been playing on the drums, learning the drums at church, even my siblings as well, singing in the choir or Sunday school, playing instruments. So I've always been surrounded by that, going to school every morning, listening to Premier Gospel, and just hearing Christian music, or even if it's pop music at the time as well. So that's always been just in and around the house. I would say as I got older, it was mainly sports and music that I had my main interest in. And I think getting to secondary school and then university was a key time, because music was more than just something I liked to do. It was becoming more of an expression. It was becoming something that I would do to like express myself, to get my thoughts out. Again, not for a serious way. I just enjoyed using it as a tool to express myself. But I would say in 2016, I was studying abroad for a bit. And around that time, I was just able to, I think being away from home and just being in a new environment, I was able to kind of find myself in a new way, or find deeper interests I had. And from there, I realized that I had a gift in music and I wanted to use that to inspire people. I wanted to use it as a way of sharing my faith with people. And just knowing around that time, I was learning a lot about just how powerful the internet was and how, it really was possible to make a living from music. So I think from that year, I was like, okay, I'm going to take this seriously. I'm going to really put more of my time and energy and effort into music to see how far I can push it, with the aim of being a professional in that sense. So from that year, I really just started to work harder, network with more people, put myself out there, and I've been building ever since. So it's been about 7 years, I would say, or so from that point, just consistent effort. But that year I can definitely point to as a key one in when things changed.
And you also touched on the fact that university, and I know you studied something around music. I wanted to find out, how has that influenced your style of music? Was there anything that you took away from the number of years that you spent in university studying some form of creative music?
I studied communication and media studies, which really delved into things from media, print media, advertising, social media, and music as well, like very light. But I think the main thing from my course I understood was culture and communication. So for me, it really opened my mind into how different cultures work, into how people work, into even human psychology. I really enjoyed looking at different psychology modules and understanding the human mind. And then studying abroad, I guess, even though that was just, part of the course, it was almost a practical application of what I was learning day to day, because I was in and around different cultures. The house I lived in, there was about 5 different nationalities. And I was really able to just understand that there's more to life than British culture, which might sound weird, but I think for me, growing up in the UK my whole life, subconsciously, I just assumed that this culture was the main culture. And I think breaking out of that comfort zone showed me, no, there's amazing other ways to live. Even though I grew up in a West African household as well, there was still a lot I didn't understand until I moved away and was able to understand that. So I think those things, just as a human, helped me to open my mind and be more appreciative of human culture and what it is we can all have in common and don't have in common. So when it came to my music, I think I've always been someone who, I like words. I like how words can make you feel and the power and significance of them. And getting into spoken word poetry around my early university years, doing open mics, that, really helps me to just grow in understanding the power of words in certain environments, and how you can really move a room or cause a room to be silent with just the words that you're saying. So I think a lot of these experiences really just help me to focus more on, wow, there's power in just words, even outside of music, just raw words. There's so much that can be done in that space. So those were really key experiences for me. And I think my course just gave me the opportunity to just live like in a different space and really understand just the beauty of the world that we're in and how to apply that into my art. Because I think if I didn't travel, I don't think my art would be like how it is today.
So what I'm hearing is that directly or indirectly, university did have an influence on how you now relate to music and what you do with music right now.
100%. 100%.
What were some of the challenges or conflicts with the academic knowledge and the practical skill? Would you say there was any crossover?
I would say there was a lot, as you would know. So I think going into university, I initially went to study computer science and artificial intelligence. So I had a very keen interest in coding and web development. But after my first year, I realized that it wasn't really the course for me. So switching to communication and media was in line with what I really enjoyed doing during college and secondary school, which was creating, which was making films, which was creating. I never thought I'd really study that, but I realized that it's the path I wanted to pursue. But I think when second year came, I realized that I didn't feel like I was academically inclined in terms of approaching, essay writing and all of these different things, because as you would know, the jump from first year to second year is a huge jump. It will really test you. And I was testing and I don't think I passed that initial test. So coming back from my study abroad was very tough because I didn't really perform well academically that year for some reasons, and having to really just face, the truth of, do I want to continue down this path of education? And I was blessed to have someone like you in my corner that really helped me to push through those very challenging times. I had to, resit a lot of exams one particular summer. And I think that year really kind of showed me that I didn't feel I had what it takes to complete, but it showed how deep down there were, in fact, skills that I could develop academically to become a strong academic person, to where even though my second year was very bad, my final year was a really great year. And I feel like that was probably my best academic year. And I, did well in that year. So there was a lot of challenges academically, but just I think fundamentally I had to really look at myself and ask, what am I really here for? Am I willing to go through this tough period? And it also helped me to see that in life, you really need community. And again, I had someone like yourself to support. My family were really supportive and some friends as well. And it just gave me a moment to never forget that no matter what we go through in life, who we have around us is so, so key, because we can't overcome certain things by ourselves. So that was a huge life lesson for me. And I think it's one that's helped build me to where I am today.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, because I really need to ask these questions, because sometimes we see artists, we see the finished product, we don't appreciate the journey. And sometimes it gives people the false impression of what am I doing wrong? Why are they making it and I'm not? Because sometimes we don't share the challenges that we go through to get to where we're going. And I hope that somebody's listening, and that is definitely going to be a source of encouragement to somebody going, do you know what? He's here now. I'm where he said he was, and there is hope to get to where I want to be. On that note, I'm not singing, I'm going to play your first song.
Please sing for us.
The show will shut down. So let's stick to you. And the first song is Transform. And it really resonates with what we've been talking about. So I'm just going to let people listen while they transform through your song.
I'm inspired by the idea of the butterfly and how, it starts off as a caterpillar, gets into its cocoon at some stage, has to change from the inside in order to become something that is capable of flying. It has to transform.
9 times a day, open your eyes, lost in the rain, now I see light. Transform with me, reach for the skies, let go of your pain, say goodbye. Storm rages inside, my soul begs for the light. Transform with me, reach for the skies, let go of your pain. Transform, take flight before their eyes. 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 Most days you will go through the dark, at the end of the tunnel you see the light.
You are listening to Unleash Your Creativity with Omashola, showcasing creativity in its many dimensions.
What is spoken word. My research states that spoken word is a phrase that is spoken aloud by a person, usually with the intention of communicating a message or conveying meaning. They can be part of a formal speech, conversation, performance, or any form of communication, which means it could be articulated in any form. Yours just happens to be faith. What's your inspiration to decide spoken word as to any other instrument? You talked about music. You talked about playing instruments. Why? What was that shift from playing instruments to spoken word?
So it's very interesting that you mentioned that definition. I've heard many different a few different definitions of spoken word and what it means in different contexts. And I like how that's a very broad way of looking at spoken word as a form of communication. A way in which I've heard it a lot is to do with poetry. And that's kind of my introduction to spoken word as a communication within music, was more from a poetic standpoint, as almost like you have hip hop, we have rapping without the music. That was my first understanding of it. And as I kind of delved into going to different open mics or shows, seeing spoken word as almost like someone standing on the stage and speaking, but it felt more than that. It was deeper than that. It's like they're communicating something deeper, whether that's just their life experience or faith or people talking about oppression. Being in those environments, I don't know how to describe it without being there, but spoken word for me is just sharing poetry, if I was to put it in a very plain way. And what attracted me to it was just how potent a word can be. There's an artist, an author called George the Poet, and I remember when I first heard him do spoken word, it was very much like poetry, but it was in a very conversational tone. And he was saying a lot of deep things about growing up in inner city London and, the system and how it doesn't benefit maybe young black boys or things like this. And him saying it with a poetic style and a poetic cadence, it kind of spoke to me and hit harder than if he was just using normal English. So for me, seeing how somebody can take something that perhaps is quite dense and weighty, but place it in a poetic structure that makes it so much more easier to understand, it just resonated with me so much. So a lot of my early expressions in spoken word, or delving into that, if you want to call it a genre, was really being open mics or being invited to church youth group functions and just sharing about the gospel or sharing about things in faith in a spoken word way. And it's amazing how you can take almost a message or a sermon or some sort of content, and you can condense it into a spoken word format, and it can minister to people in such a strong way that doesn't necessarily feel preachy. And I think it's important that we have sermons that, delve deep into the depth of the Bible, but it's also great to have someone who can share a poem who also touches on the gospel or their experiences in life and stuff, but in a way that's just has a beautiful poetic cadence. So, and I also understand that maybe that's just how God made me to like the sound of that kind of thing. But hearing that and just seeing how powerful it was, it made me kind of I want to delve deeper into this. So I think again, around university, I started to take that more seriously and practice more, write more spoken word. And that opened up so much for me, even in terms of music. But I think at the core, when I write, it's really about, can I convey a message with these lyrics? And spoken word for me was a fundamental vehicle for that.
Listening to even the very first clip that I played, which talked about I would fly and talking about the heart, apart from using faith as a vehicle, some of your inspirations, are they your personal experience or are they taken from your environment? How do you get inspired with your writings outside of what you've talked about in terms of the gospel?
Absolutely. For me, I love artists that can talk about their life and talk about the ups and downs and can just convey their story. I think there's so much that's powerful in someone's story, whether it's just, how their day went, or as a Christian, your testimony, or big or small stories. We are story-driven people. So for me, that's something that I think is really key. Even looking at Jesus, he told a lot of stories and parables. And that, I think early on, that kind of really spoke to me how, although there's room for things to be literal, there's also room for things to have space for people to think about. And I think spoken word provides that space. So for me, just tons of inspiration. My life is a big inspiration. Things I see around me, things I might watch, all of these things for me, just trigger thoughts and whatnot. But I think as a storyteller, it's just great to look around and observe life life. And then from there, speak to things that I think could be helpful for me or for other people.
Fantastic. Now, in my introduction, I did mention some accolades of people that you've collaborated with and worked with and had fun sharing similar kind of interests. What was that experience like, and what were some of your highlights within those collaborations?
Yeah, some of my highlights can definitely include sharing a stage with someone like Trivolo and Esso, opening for those artists who worked with people like Limo Blaze. And yeah, working in that kind of space was really great for me because I was able to learn from these guys, but also, perform as well. And performing is another great part of being an artist, which I'm always striving to grow in. So having those opportunities was fantastic for me, just for growth. Even just having people who've been in the game longer who would look at you as somebody that they would want to bring along in their journey too, for me is an honor. So yeah, working with or like performing on the same kind of lineup as someone like Esso and Triple O have been great experiences for me. And even to the point now where I'm able to continue developing in these areas and making new types of art, even if it's not specifically spoken word, I'm able to like take a lot of these experiences from before and put them into something new. And even that, I love growth, even though growth is hard and the growth is challenging and it's not always glamorous. When you can look back and say like, wow, I've really grown from point A to B, that's also really inspirational and really encouraging. So looking back over the years of making music and writing, those things have definitely been, for me, highs as well.
One thing I enjoy about this show is that you can ask questions that you would not normally ask, or you'll be asking questions that other people might be thinking about. So my question is, how did you get to be on the stage with Triple O? What, did you just phone him up? Did you just say, hey, I'm here, I'm Davecreates, and we do this together? How did that happen?
It's actually an interesting story because someone like Triple O is someone who I remember listening to even before I made music, just growing up and hearing his music. So as I started to make music, at one moment in time, I think he found my stuff and he reached out to me and said that he just wanted, support, and just offered to help me wherever that made sense. So from that point, we just started kept communication going. He would just give me advice, would meet up, even to this day, someone who's really supportive of what I'm doing and helped me to get to where I am. So when the opportunity came to be part of that show, he put my name forward and thankfully I was able to come through at the time. So yeah, that was just something that was really inspiring for me. And it was just a moment of remembering to keep going because you never know who's watching, and just keep giving it your all, whatever you're working on, because you never know what doors might open later on.
Exactly. You just literally took the words out of my mouth. I wanted to say it's about being your authentic self and doing the hard work. You never know who's watching. You have been talking about open mic, and I really try to make sure that my listeners have an understanding. What is open mic?
So open mic is typically a night you would have where, like an event night where artists will come together in one space and the host will just like introduce artist after artist who will get up for maybe like 10 minutes and just perform stuff. In a spoken word open mic will literally be a night of poetry where people can come. If they're performing for the first time or they're an experienced person, it's normally like a warm environment where you can try poetry and try new material or try existing material. And they're typically, in really nice venues or random venues. You get a lot at universities or even at pubs and cafes. And they're just great spaces for people to just find new artists and try poetry.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. So we're now going to move into your second song, and I love it. One Day I Will Fly. So for me, that's an encouragement to those who are aspiring and those that are already flying to continue to soar.
Yeah, dreams don't chase themselves. I daily chase my dreams. I daily doubt my doubts. Like weeds, they choke my seeds. At times I find it hard to believe that I can help change your soul. If I just play my role, the enemy's still scheming cold. Cold world full of hearts so frozen, but the temperature's rising. The sun coming soon, the stars and the moon will bow with the sight of his light, endorsing power. Jesus came to devour all those chains that made me weak. He came to give me power, to set my soul and spirit free. So tell me, what is it like to live life on the free side? To live life with a free soul and live life with a free mind. No guilt in my gaze, no shame in my ways. just peace in my heart and comfort in his name. Yeah.
And it's okay. He can see the darkness that we face. He can see the hurt and the pain in your eyes. All you gotta do is turn your face to the light. Call on his name. We can be free. We can be everything we were made to be. We can be free. We can be free. We can be everything we were made to be.
You are listening to Unleash Your Creativity with Omashola, showcasing creativity in its many dimensions.
Now I'm going to be asking, people will be listening and going, I like what he's doing. I have similar talents. I have similar gifts, but I have no clue where and how to start. What would you say to them?
I would say to them, if you wanted to start in, say, poetry, I would just say buy yourself a journal and just start writing. Don't think about being perfect. The most important thing is expressing honestly. I think that's so key about being able to be honest with yourself, because that's a skill. So grab a journal and just start writing. I'll then say to think about what kind of art you want to make. And if there's people that you've heard have inspired you, ask yourself, why have they inspired you? And look to not necessarily create like them, but just understand maybe the principles or the techniques that they've used and try and learn those techniques to help refine, again, how you can be more honest in your work. Art is so subjective in how people can take things in different ways. So it's important to make art that moves you first. But I think ultimately it comes down to just starting today. With music, it could be a thing of finding instrumentals on YouTube and just starting to write to that. Society and technology now where you can do so much on your phone. You can just record yourself. You don't even have to have all the best equipment to start. But I think the most important thing to do is to start. Just pick up a pen and write, share it with someone that you trust, and build community over time, of course. But I think the most important thing is just start today and just always seek to be honest with yourself in how you write, and make art that moves you.
Lovely. I love that. I love that. Now, you mentioned the word genre, and I know you also mentioned in your bio hip hop. What are your own favorite genre?
I love music. There's so much music that I love. I would say hip hop, R&B, like lo-fi music, so stuff that's just very chill, relaxing. Those are musics that like genres that I listen to most commonly. I love even like worship and gospel. Those are over the years music that I've really grown closer to, because you just realize how much you need to be reminded of who God is in your life. So typically growing up, I always had that around the house. It wasn't music that I wanted to listen to, but I think as I became older, I realized the significance and importance. So yeah, ultimately music that is just chill. I think because I'm a chill person, so I like chill music.
You've just literally led me nicely into my next question, because I was going to say that, you're talking about your music, you do your stage thing, but I know you as somebody of few words and somebody who's really chilled if you are not performing. So I'm glad that, because I was going to say I perceive, but now you've confirmed that that is. So my question is, how do you prepare for going on stage? Because this is somebody who's really chill, somebody who's reserved, somebody who's quiet, and then you go on stage and, is there stage fright? Is there, how does that, talk me through that process?
That's a really good question, because those who know me will know in real life, I'm more reserved. I'm the quiet person in the room. I don't like being the loudest person in the room. I'd rather not. So being on stage is like a complete opposite experience. I think over the years, I realized that from young, I was being prepared for this moment, I guess by God, because in primary school, I was like head boy. So it involved a bit of public speaking. Secondary school, I had some sort of like leadership roles as well within there. So again, those public speaking. So I think all through my life, it's just been a lot of public speaking I've been doing. So over time, I just got used to like speaking in public, or even like with my dad, my siblings and I would help him do photography and do video in church. So even that kind of being in a public setting and knowing how to carry yourself, a lot of these skills I think I just developed over time. So when it came to music and performing poetry, I just watched a lot of different people perform. And I think I just had to be like, I want to learn to be great at this. I need to study the greats. So I think just studying people who were really good at their craft, looking at people live, and then just looking to emulate that, and realizing that even though I'm not the most loud and I'm energetic in my own way, but not the most like dance force person in real life, on stage, it allows you to kind of adopt different techniques of expressing yourself, engaging people. If that's because spoken word for me, typically my style would be more reserved. But when it comes to performing music, I try and have way more energy than I would do if I'm doing poetry. So I think just studying different people and knowing like what emotion do I want people to connect with in this moment, and how can I express myself to then give people the opportunity to relate with that, I would say. But yeah, it didn't come naturally. It was a lot of practice. And I'm still learning.
But that's good, because I remember saying, are we going to get the energy? Are we going to get that stage performance from you when we do this interview, or is it going to be the relaxed day? So, but I'm really enjoying the energy that you're bringing, and I feel that also is being felt by those listening. Now, again, in my intro about you, I said your creativity is very vast and it's very wide. And I know I did say that you were a businessman, and you looked at me and go, really? But yeah, if you have your own online, if you have your own clothing line, tells me that you are a businessman. But before I ask my question, I want to go back to the word that I mentioned, which was imagination and creativity. And from my research, it's the word of the day, which was imagination, is closely linked to creativity, and it enables the generations of new ideas, artistic expression, and innovative solutions. It can inspire and drive various forms of artistic, scientific, and technological advancement. And honestly, I think that in one way or the other, you tick all those boxes, even coming from the computer science background that you first of all tested the waters to. So I'm going to now pick up on your clothing line. How did that start? And what was the passion? What was the passion behind it? I know you have a caption on your bio which seeks to inspire a generation of dreamers and creatives on the quest of true expression and freedom. I love that. Please unpack.
Thank you. So yeah, the clothing line is called Be Free. That's really stemmed from, I guess, my initial project, where one of the songs is titled Be Free, under the whole One Day I Will Fly theme. And it really just speaks to, for me, growing up, especially in university, and being surrounded by so many other amazing creatives, but at times, and I go through it myself at times, feeling held back by doubt, feeling held back by reasons why I think I can't achieve success. And ultimately just having this desire to see people free, even as a Christian, to see people free from wrong mindsets and things that are holding them back on a spiritual level. The whole thing of Be Free is kind of like a holistic view of how I would love to see people change. So the platform, which one part of it is clothing, is really just making, garments that high quality, comfortable, which are great to wear, but also carry the theme of freedom and inspiring people to look within themselves to where they believe they're called to go to in life, and to take steps in getting there. For me, that at least right now, a lot of that focus is music and stuff, but it can apply to so many different walks of life. If someone's a parent, if somebody's fresh out of uni, if somebody's starting out in their faith, there's a lot of things we want to achieve. There's things we want to fly towards. There's things we want to be successful in, and it takes risks. But I think by acknowledging that, this is what freedom might look like in this area, walking towards that. Be free in this general term is really, for me, just helping people to find freedom, and clothing is a big part of what we're doing right now with that, but there's also other things that we want to get into over the years, to provide spaces for people to grow in their artistry, providing community, and to help people, become better within themselves and to find that freedom.
And I'm now going to introduce the final song, which normally I would choose mine, but hey, it has to be all Davecreates today. So the final song is Oh God. What's the inspiration behind that song?
So this song, shout out to my friends Kay Lewis and Rianne and Vivace. It was a song that they actually came to me with, that they were working on. And yeah, it was like a remix of the Kirk Franklin track that I think he released a while ago. But it's really just celebrating who God is to us, being our savior, being the victor, someone that we can call upon. And yeah, it's just a really good feel-good song. Sure. One time for the most high, this Elohim. He saved my soul in the nick of time like Carmelo's team. Up in New York, the pressure applied full court, but my head coach is undefeated in winning streets. And there's more concern about heart figure than pound figures. I've been brown figures who point fingers about thinking about the truth or who accusations might trigger. Lord forgive me if my words have made a soul shiver. Our God is incomprehensible, he is way bigger than anything you can digest if you have 9 livers. Humility, that when there's a life giver. There's power when we pray and call upon him, Lord fill us. Many want attention but can't deal with dimensions. The fear and deceit, how they paint intention. Like cliffhangers, I feel plenty tension. I need a spirit to see plain intention. Cause opportunities are doors but sometimes the windows. I break through like Israelites and move where the wind goes. Trying to rise low key like B flat to see a sharp crescendo. Yeah, but only he knows when though. So I just let the pen flow.
God is an awesome God, he reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power and love. Our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God, he reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power and love. Our God is an awesome God.
You are listening to Unleash Your Creativity with Omashola, showcasing creativity in its many dimensions.
Not only have you collaborated with giants in the field, you continue to make impact through your spoken word. And my question is, in your bio, you talked about BBC One Extra, Premier Gospel, the Spotify and New Music Friday UK. How did all of this become part of your journey?
So interestingly, Premier Gospel was one of like the first like radio exposure I had when I started doing spoken word. I think in uni, they invited me down to the studio and we did some interviews and some live recordings, which was a really like big confidence booster at the time. BBC One Extra have been great in supporting some releases over the years, and even Spotify New Music Friday, when I dropped a project last year or more, they were, grateful to show some love and feature one of the songs there, which was really big deal at the time for me. So even now, it's something I look back on, I'm grateful. So all these different experiences and exposures, whether they're mainstream or within the Christian circles, for me have just been great indicators that the art that I'm making is, touching people in the right way. And it's just confidence boosting to keep going.
I normally ask a question, and I'm going to ask that question so that you have time to think about it. And then I'll ask another question, then we'll come back to that question, if that makes sense. So the question I would normally ask is, what does creativity mean to you? Yeah. Or how would you define creativity? So while you're thinking about that, I'm going to ask you another question. What skills has empowered your journey that you may have picked up along the way that looking back?
I would say one of the biggest skills is not even the music or art skill. It's just communication. I love to work with different people. I love to collaborate. And the biggest thing is just communication, for better or worse. My best experiences and worst experiences have been because of communication or lack thereof. So I think for me, even in my day job, I work within like account management. So kind of helping liaise with loads of different teams to make sure that the jobs are getting done. It's big on communication. And you see that where there's lapses in communication, things go wrong and it's really stressful sometimes. So I've just learned clear communication, honest communication. That for me transcends, I think, anything I might have learned technically as a writer or an artist.
So back to the other question. What does creativity mean to you personally?
Creativity, personally, to me, someone who's even called Davecreates, it's taking something from your imagination and making it real. I think like ultimately there's many ways of looking at it, but I think when you create something, you're bringing something that didn't really exist before. If that's a combination of words, if that's illustration, if that's a sound, it's taking it from your imagination and bringing it into the physical space. I'd also see creativity as problem solving. If there's you want to build a bridge between two places, you have to be creative in how you provide that path. And I think with music, for me, how that relates is there's sounds that I feel like should be existing or words that I think should be existing. And when I write or when I make music, that's me creating solutions to problems that are in the world. And not necessarily problems, just things I think should be there or things that God has put on my heart to release into the world. So that's how I would define creativity for me.
Now we're going to the very final segment, and this is what I call Did You Know segment. I'm not testing you, not testing your knowledge, but what we're doing is sometimes we assume that people do know what we're talking about. So this is where I kind of dig deep into what spoken word is about and did my own research, I'm going to just read out some statements and then I'm going to ask for your own input on them. And I looked at what is the power of spoken words. So the power of spoken words lies in the ability to influence and inspire others. When spoken with conviction and passion, words can have a profound impact on people's emotions, beliefs, and actions. Does that resonate?
100%.
And I think you really touched on that a lot through our conversation. It's almost like a litmus test to go, what he said, is it true? And this is like tick, yes. It also says spoken words can bring people together, encourage positive change, and give voice to marginalized communities. And again, I think you've picked up on that and how music has allowed people to reach out. It's allowed you to divert into different communities while you were abroad. So yes, that's another tick. It can also be used to express complex ideas, share personal experiences, and convey powerful messages about social justice and equality. Have these resonated with you in any way?
Absolutely. And I can say that from when I started on my journey to this point right now, these things have been key in me understanding and discovering, art, spoken word, music, poetry, creativity.
There's one more I'm going to add, and it says, which touches on what you define or where your own heart is in terms of spoken word. It says, often relays using poetry, storytelling, and the performance to create a powerful and emotional connection between the artist and the audience. And on that note, in addition to whatever else you want to add, where can we find you?
Yeah, I would say thank you for having me. It's been a really, really good interview. I've enjoyed delving deep down memory lane, down a lot of things. If you want to keep up with me, I'm on Instagram and Twitter at I am Davecreates. That's IAMDAVECREATES. I'm also on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, and all streaming platforms. Just search Davecreates. It's all one word, and you can find my music and some poetry up there as well.
Now, I'm not done with spoken word yet because I left the best to last, because this statement is something that not just people who perform it can achieve, but everybody can be a part of. And it says the power of spoken words lies in the ability to be remembered long after they have been spoken. And I look at that and I say, everybody has the power to impact people through their words. So all of us are on a stage, but we're performing to different audiences. So whether it's at work, whether it's our colleagues, whether it's our friends, whether it's in church. So I just want us all embrace what Davecreates does on the platform, in our own platforms, as we journey in our own area of influence.
You have been listening to Unleash Your Creativity with Omashola, showcasing creativity in its many dimensions.